The purpose of this video is to demonstrate our multi-category, multi-criteria selection app. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to assume that we have two different categories, and in this example we're going to be looking at choosing the best fan as well as choosing the best motor, and we're going to look at some joint constraints between those two categories as well. So if we go to Category 1 tab, the first step is to reset the form to make sure that any old data is cleared out. And then you can launch the Topsys Analyzer, which will walk you through actually choosing or rank ordering your preferences of the first category. So if I click on Launch Topsys, I get a user form menu here. And the first action is to select the number of criteria that I'm interested in this category. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to look at 3 criteria for our fan, so I'm going to select 3. The app then prompts me for the name of each of the criteria that I'm interested in. So we're going to go with, for the fan, we have flow, noise, and cost. Once I've entered the 3 criteria, I'm prompted by the app to proceed to the next step, which is to click the Input Data and Analyze button. And once I do that, the data that I select and enter will be rank ordered based on my preferences, and then the results will be color coded, gold being my first preference, silver being my second, and bronze being my third. So I click OK to proceed, and I click Input Data and Analyze. So once I've done that, it's given me an input box here prompting me to go select my data, which I have on my Sample Data tab. So I click over here, and in my fan sample data, I just select however many I want to do. We can do up to 15 in our analysis here. I'll just select 12 to start with. Once I click OK, the app will run through and it will input the data into the form and rank order the choices. And this message box here is telling me that the next step is to ensure that the relative weights on my 3 criteria are what I really want them to be, and that the min and maximization criteria are what I really want them to be. So I can click OK to proceed, and I come up here and I say flow, I was trying to maximize that, noise, I'm trying to minimize that, and cost, I'm trying to minimize that. And you can see that the solution is dynamically updating as I change the radio button controls here. And at this point I have fan 12 as the number 1 choice, fan 7 as the number 2 choice, and fan 1 as the number 3 choice. Now I could decide that one of these criteria is much more important than the other, say cost. So I can come up to my relative weights row here and I can actually change that. And I can change cost to be much more important. And you can see that the solution dynamically updated. Fan 12 is still number 1, but fan 10 became 2 and fan 7 became 3. So if these are the criteria that I'm interested in, and this is what I'm trying to maximize and minimize, and these are the relative weights I want, the multi-criteria selection app here has told me how to rank order my choices. But now in our demonstration we actually have a second category. So I come to the Category 2 tab and I reset the form as before, and I launch the Topsys Analyzer just as I did on the first category. And now for our motor, which is our second category, we're going to do 3 choices, 3 criteria as well. And these are actually going to be torque, noise, and cost. And once I've done that, I'm getting the same prompts as before, telling me to now select my data and input it. So I click OK, and I click the Input Data and Analyze button. I go back to my sample data sheet, and over here to the right I have my sample motor data, and I'll select, say, 13 different motors. And I select my torque, noise, and cost criteria, and I click OK. And once again the app does the same thing. It goes through and highlights my first, second, and third choice based on my criteria. But now again I have to make sure that my max and min and my relative weights for those 3 criteria are what I really want. So I click OK, and I come up here, and once again I'm trying to maximize the first criteria. I want the highest torque possible, but I want to minimize noise and I want to minimize cost. And again, I'm going to say that cost is way more important than the other two criteria, so I'll move its relative weight up. And the solution was dynamically changing, and I see that motor 10 is my number one choice. Motor 8 is silver, it's number 2, and motor 11 is a color close to bronze here, and it's in third place. So if these two categories were independent from each other, I would know my top 3 choices in each one of the categories. But next we're going to demonstrate an example if you actually had intercategory constraints. Some of your top preferences in one category may be incompatible with top preferences in another category. So to do that analysis, we go to our Joint Analysis tab. And the first step on this tab is the same as the others. You hit the Reset the Analysis button to clear out any old data. And now if I click the Gather Category Choices button, you'll see that the top row and this column here are auto-populated with the names of the choices that I had in Category 1. I had fan 1 through 12. In Category 2, I had motor 1 through 13. Okay? And at this point, each one of these boxes represents a constraint between, say, motor 1 and fan 4. So I can go through and check each box that represents an intercategory constraint. And for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to click several random boxes. This is something that the user would know based on outside information about which fan may be incompatible with different motors. So let me select a few here. And once you've selected your intercategory constraints, you go to your Risk Optimizer tab and you hit Start to run the optimization. And as Risk Optimizer is running in the background, you'll notice that these which motor and which fan is highlighted in green is the current optimal solution that Risk Optimizer has found given your intercategory constraints. So now we'll let Risk Optimizer run for a minute or so, and you'll periodically see those choices in green move around based on it jointly looking at your rank ordered preferences between the two categories. Now for purposes of this demonstration, we'll assume that Risk Optimizer has run and found its stable solution, which in our experience only takes a couple minutes. We can stop Risk Optimizer, and in this case we'll tell it that we don't want the workbook and we'll keep our best values, and we hit stop. And you can see that our final choice should be fan 11 and motor 10 given our intercategory constraints that we have. And if we go back to category 1, we see that fan 11 actually wasn't in our top 3 choices given that one category alone. And we see motor 10 actually was our top choice in the motor category. So given some of these intercategory constraints that we had that I put in here randomly, our top 3 choices for fan actually got knocked out by another choice to give the joint optimal choice. So that's a demonstration of how we can do individual rank orderings given single categories and then a joint analysis given 2 categories.